Okay, hot topic from the MedPAC article we went over last Friday, rebate dollars and how they're being spent in 2026. So let's look at where that money's actually coming from in Medicare Advantage for 2026. Excuse me. So according to MedPAC's article, once again, MedPAC's a group funded by Congress that gives a report to Congress every year during March. Medicare sending plans an average of $2,660 per beneficiary per year in rebate dollars. Now that's a record high. In fact, it's almost double what it was a decade ago back in 2018. Let's open up then and walk through how these rebate dollars actually flow, because Medicare Advantage is not just handing out extras to people. It's a system of incentives, and that's one way that it attracts seniors, typically seniors. Medicare enrollee, how about that? Quick refresher on how rebates work. So Medicare Advantage plan every year submits a bid to CMS based on what it expects to spend on Part A and Part B services for its members. If that bid comes in below Medicare's county benchmark, which almost all plans do, that plan then will keep a percentage of that difference in what's known as a rebate. And that percentage is typically somewhere 50, 65, 70%, and it depends on the plan star rating, what percentage it is. Now, that rebate has to be used in specific ways. It can go towards supplemental benefits, can go towards reducing member cost or administrative expenses and profit. They can't, however, just keep it and do whatever they want with it outside of that. Now, in 2026, those rebates averaged about $2,660 per person per year, roughly, $222 per member per month across all non-employer MA plans, even with changes like Medicare's new version 28 risk adjustment model. The plans have still maintained these rebate levels by adjusting their bids against the benchmark. Now, MedPAC has projected total payments from Medicare to Medicare Advantage will reach about $615 billion this year, and those rebates make up about 15% of that total spend, or somewhere around 16, 17 billion, maybe 18. Maybe you can do math quicker than I can. When you look at how the MA carriers are actually allocating those rebate dollars, though, it's not evenly distributed amongst things most people would assume. So on average, this is straight from MedPAC, about 26% of the rebate dollars are going towards reducing cost sharing, things like copays, coinsurance, and out-of-pocket maximum limits on the Medicare Advantage plan. The largest portion, which is about 38%, though, is going towards non-Medicare services. So that's going to include dental, vision, hearing, over-the-counter benefits, transportation, Meals on Wheels, gym memberships, things of that nature, any kind of supplemental offering, right? About 19% is being used to enhance the Part D prescription drug benefit, either by lowering its premiums or giving richer coverage. And around 7% is going towards reducing the Part B as in boy, premium. Then about 10% is covering administrative cost and then profit on the other end of that. So that's straight from MedPAC, showing the national average across all plans. If you look specifically at standard plans, this is non-special need plans or non-S&P plans, right? The ones most clients are going to be enrolling in, that mix shifts a bit. You tend to see a larger share going towards cost-sharing reductions in Part D, and then a smaller share going towards supplemental extras. So on special needs plans, they often allocate a much larger portion of their rebates towards non-Medicare services just because of the populations that they serve. So when you're talking about your D-SNP population, your I-SNP population, your C-SNP population, only about a quarter to a third of that rebate money, though, is actually going towards lowering the traditional costs people are thinking about, like copays and out-of-pocket exposure. A significant portion is directed extra. Kind of to bring this closer to reality for you, I chose Dallas, Fort Worth, because I'm currently in Fort Worth, to give you an idea of what these rebate dollars look like. So according to 2026 bid data that you can access, it shows that plans are allocating an even higher share in my area, about 40% towards non-Medicare services like dental, vision, transportation. And that reflects because in the city I'm in, it's a combination of very competitive pressure and higher level benchmarks that gives plans more flexibility in how they structure their benefits for an MA enrollee. Experienced agents, though, probably more aware of this. Carriers are not just being generous with the benefits that they're giving. They're making very deliberate decisions about how to allocate these dollars. They're wanting to manage the predictability of their population, right? By offering benefits that attract members and then retain those members with more stable utilization patterns. They can manage their variance by reducing their overall cost sharing and then strengthening drug coverage, because that's going to help with very large unexpected claims depending on what kind of diagnosis a member has or comorbidities. And then they're able to influence behavior both on the provider side and the member side, which enables them to essentially control all the total cost of care over time. So even though the total funding from Medicare may look similar across plan types and counties, what actually shows up in the benefits, depending on where you live, can be very different. It comes down to geography and provider dynamics and essentially the carrier's overall strategy with your county or a county your member may be in. And that's how the system of incentives is at work, including in 2026. So the next time you're comparing Medicare Advantage plans, you shouldn't just ask what extras are included. A better question might be, how is this carrier allocating their rebate dollars, and does that align with my member's actual needs and risk profile? Once you understand how the money is flowing into MA, you're able to move then from just explaining plans to actually interpreting the system. I'll give you an example of this. The last time you went to a first look for an MA carrier, whenever you've gone, when's the last time you heard an MA carrier who was comparing what the copay was on an X-ray or MRI or outpatient surgery with what they had last year? That's not what you hear. The last time or any time you've been to a first look, almost exclusively what you hear is what their new benefits are. Their new dental benefits, their new Meal on Wheels benefits, their new, you get the idea, gym coverage, their new over-the-counter prescriptions, because that's where the main competition has been found in the MA section. MA grouping, right? It's not as much in what the copays or the out-of-pockets are for outpatient services. It's almost exclusively competition is heated up amongst what can you give me extra outside of what Medicare covers, because that is what they have found is attracting members.